good morning. Today is another one of our first fives. We're looking at this text from Acts chapter 4. And it's in the middle of this kind of story in which Peter and John have been speaking to people in Jerusalem, and God's been doing pretty miraculous things. His Spirit's come upon people, and they've come to know the power of God to be present with them in the midst of what they're going through. But what I love about this particular text today is I think it really is in some ways for all of us. And what I mean by that is the people in the crowd see something in Peter and John that others didn't see. And I think what I would love for us all to hear in this is God sees something in you and I that so often other people don't see. And so here's what the text says. Acts chapter 4, verse 13. When they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. But since they could see the man who had been healed standing there with them, there was nothing they could say. So they ordered them to withdraw from the Sanhedrin and then confer together. What are we going to do with these men? They asked. Everybody living in Jerusalem knows they have done an outstanding miracle, and we cannot deny it. But to stop this thing from spreading any further among the people, we must warn these men to speak no longer to anyone in this name. The name is Jesus. Then they called the men again and commanded them not to speak or teach at all in the name of Jesus. But Peter and John replied, "Judge for yourselves whether it is right in God's sight to obey you rather than God. For we cannot help speaking about what we have seen and heard." After further threats, they let them go. They could not decide how to punish them because all the people were praising God for what had happened. For the man who was miraculously healed was over 40 years old. Now, I love this story for lots of reasons, but I always love this one line. For they were unschooled, ordinary men. They're just your average Joe, right? They were your normal guy. They were just any of us. Now, I don't know why it seems so important to recognize they were unschooled, ordinary, other than this, that when we allow God to shape us, to mold us, we can do things we never thought possible in our own lives. What we begin to find is God sees something in us that it can be done through us if we allow Him to work. But so often, we either don't have enough confidence in ourselves or in His work in us, and so we think less of ourselves, or we think so highly of ourselves, we don't need God. It's not that the writer here, Luke, who writes Acts, is trying to say, hey, education doesn't matter. That's not what he's getting at, because in fact what we find throughout is Paul, who's incredibly educated, really expanded the church. So it's not that God doesn't use educated people, but it's in this particular story, God uses two people who had been with Jesus. So here's what I want to say to you and I today. If we'll just spend more time with Jesus, there's no telling what may happen. If we just spend more time with Jesus, people might go, man, I don't even like these people, but they're doing stuff that's incredible. So what might happen in our community? What might happen in our homes, in our workplaces, in our schools? What might happen if we spent more time with Jesus and we lived in such a way that people saw that? And what if the overflow of Jesus' love in our lives was seen in the lives of others? Then I can't help but say these same words here might be for us. Everybody living in Jerusalem knows they have done an outstanding miracle, and we cannot deny it. So what if wherever you live, in Muskegon, wherever you might be listening to this, what if in our community, we can't deny what God's doing through them, because this is who God is. And so here's my invitation for you and I. You and I don't have to be anything extraordinary because God sees us as extraordinary. So other people might see us as ordinary, unschooled. But through the work of God's Spirit, when we spend more time with Jesus, He can do miraculous things through us. And so may you and I just rest in God's presence today. May you and I spend more time with Jesus. We'll catch you next time for another First Five.